Nighttime over at your end of the woods right now?
Yes, 9:30 at night.
Oh, oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, evening for you. I hope I'm not keeping you up and out to your daily nap or whatever. But Evans, tell us a little bit more about you for the people who may not know who Evans Willie is.
Yes, Evans Willie, born and bred in Meekhood, St. Lucia, West Indies, and I migrated to the UK 10 years ago, 2013. And currently, I am a property investor, a property trainer, and a sales trainer as well.
That's pretty amazing. That's a big jump from Miku to property trainer, property investor, all the way in the UK. Let's talk about the transition. What made you say, listen, I'm going to transition. I'm going to leave St. Lucia. How did that happen?
I mean, I've always wanted to become successful, and I've realized in St. Lucia it's very difficult because the opportunities are so limited. And what happened was, in 2013, I had the opportunity to obviously leave St. Lucia. Obviously, I love my island; it's amazing, but the opportunity is obviously very limited. So yeah, when I came to this country, I never planned to become a property investor or a trader. I just wanted to become successful and become rich. But I quickly realized that it's not as easy as I thought. I quickly realized that England is no bed of roses, and my dreams quickly got buried on the bills. So yeah, man, working two, three jobs, for years, and making a lot of money, but my outgoings are so high that the more money I make was the more money I spend. I quickly realized that I need to have a business and I need to have more people working for me to accumulate more money. So I jumped into entrepreneurship in 2017, 2018. I did multiple different businesses. They all failed. In fact, the average business in the UK, breaks even in the first 5 years. So I never knew that stats until I was in business. If I knew that stat, I probably wouldn't get into business. But I learned the hard way. Multiple business failed, and I stumbled across property. It just made sense. It's always been there. It is here, and it's always gonna be here. So I always knew that this is the business that's never gonna go wrong. So that's what happened, and that's how I got started in property.
That's amazing. But before we go in and delve deeper down into the property stuff, let's talk about some of the businesses that you ventured in. Because at the end of the day, the program is called Mind Your Business, and it's always good to give the dark side of entrepreneurship. People think that, listen, once you go to work for yourself, it's going to be a bed of roses. I'm going to wake up when I feel like. I'm going to do whatever I feel like when I want. Nobody going to talk to me, as a bad boy. Let's talk about some of the businesses and adventures that you went into, and maybe even why you think they weren't as successful as you originally planned.
Yeah, I mean, what businesses I did? I mean, that's a very hard question. I think the easiest question is what business did I not do? I mean,
Oh wow.
if it was legal, I'd done it. If it was illegal, I would have a look. But yeah, man, I did multiple different businesses. I had buying and selling cars as a business. That was good, but that was another job that required me to constantly do it. After a while, I'm realizing, like, why am I doing this? I might as well just take my job, because it's the same thing. A lot of people obviously get into business and say, hey, I've got my own business, but when you really break it down, they are the business. If they are not there, there's no money coming in. So realistically, they don't own a business; they just own a job. And again, as I said, I learned that the hard way, and I realized that you need to be making money passively. So I did buying and selling cars. I did trading. I did network marketing, or MLM. I'm not sure how you guys obviously know it. In the UK, I was sourcing cars for people, and they were paying me a commission. I was doing. I had a security business. I had a printing business. Man, just name it, man. I think I tried every single thing. As long as somebody's telling me that it makes money, in my head it makes sense.
I get you. Now you said all these things. I was like, to me, I want to go into all these things. You just demotivated me from going into all of these things. So that's pretty amazing. You said failure, and that's one of the words I tried to avoid using. I think there was all lessons. What lessons can you share with us that you learned? Because I know each of them probably shared a different lesson to you, which probably contributed to your growth now. So let's talk about some of the lessons that you learned along the way.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's so many lessons, too numerous to mention. But one of the biggest misconceptions that I had when I obviously got started in business, and obviously it's kind of like drilled into me as a young kid growing up, in St. Lucia, is always trying to do things, by myself, right? Um, don't ask anybody for help, don't ask anybody for
Hmm.
anything, and all of the businesses that I started, I was the one doing everything. I was the one doing the administration. I was the one doing the sales. I was the one doing the marketing. I was the one doing the customer service. Now, and that's the problem with most businesses that I realize that there's somebody who may be very good at, let's just say, fixing cars, right? They're very skilled, but they're not very good at sales. So despite the fact they're very good, obviously fixing the car, but because they're not very good at sales, there's no money coming into the business because they can't sell to people. Or they might be good at sales, but they're not good at customer service, so they can't retain customers. So there's so many things that I learned. I learned one of the things I learned in business is that just focus on what you are good at, and the things that you are not good at, you need to hire people to do it. So right now in my business, I don't do anything admin. I hate emails. I don't like to do anything emails or text or anything like that. So I've got somebody who does all of my admin things. Every email, somebody does it, right? So for me, the only thing that I focus on the income producing things. I focus on obviously speaking on stage and training people and sales. This is the things that I do. I've got customer service department. So I've realized that it's okay to pay people to do the things that you're not very good at. Because what does that mean? That means that you got to have more time to focus on the things that you are good at, which means you're going to bring more money into the business. Which when I got started in business, like now, why would I pay this guy? That's going to mean I'm going to have an extra salary, but it's a complete paradigm shift through trial and error to realize that what it is, you actually need people, to build a business.
That's well said, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs suffer with that particular issue. You in your preamble, you did say something like, "That's what we are taught. Do it if you can't do it for yourself, don't do it." You understand? I think it's just the mindset that we are brought in the Caribbean, or maybe even as Black people on a whole. So if I dare say, how were you able to say, well, this particular skill set is what I'm good at and I'm going to focus? When did you know that, from what I am getting from you, that you knew that you're good at sales?
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, when I came to this country in 2013, I obviously looked around. I'm like, what am I going to do? I finished before comprehensive secondary school, and I got a chance to obviously go to. Sorry, that's my spot. Let me just take you off. I got a chance to obviously go to up the Mon. I think it's obviously college back home or what it is. And I said, you know what it is, mom. I'm not really. I love you, mom, but you've been obviously struggling to obviously send me to school my whole life. I'm gonna obviously go work for a year, and then I'm gonna pay for my college myself. Obviously, everybody who says that never actually happened. So that's
True.
what happened. I went to obviously work for a year. 1 year has turned into what, 20 years already? No, not too much.
Wow.
About 15 years. I'm only 32, but yeah, I've never obviously gone back to school. So I didn't really like school. So, so it was obviously one of those things. Sorry, I completely got carried away. What was the question again?
We are talking about how did you learn, or were able to say that this
Yes,
particular sales is your skill set?
yes. So when I came to the UK in 2013, I looked around and felt like, what am I gonna do for a living? And I was like, you know what? I've always been a hustler, in St. Lucia. 1 minute I'm cutting hair, 1 minute I'm washing cars, 1 minute I'm selling. I'm like, you know what? I can obviously I can obviously do sales. So I looked around for obviously, to be fair, any job possible, and I couldn't really get any job. There was obviously one guy who came to St. Lucia on holiday that I actually took his Facebook. So when I came to the UK, he was one of the last people that I thought of, and I contacted him. I was like, bro, what is it that you do? Like, I need a job. I'm not illegal. I've got obviously my state stuff. Like, just give me something to do. And he was like, oh, I haven't got anything. After bombarding him for an entire week straight, he finally obviously agreed to meet up with me. And then he obviously got me a job working in the warehouse. But in the warehouse, when I was stacking the shelves, I saw guys at the front counter wearing a nice, dress shirt and pants. and they were selling, vehicle parts on the counter. So I spoke to one of the guys and I was like, bro, how much money do you make? And he told me, I was like, hold on a minute, you make more money than me, you look smarter than me, but I can do that. So I approached the boss. After a few times, he gave me a chance to obviously, start selling, vehicle parts on the counter. And I did very well. I got promoted to obviously, working in the back room, which is selling vehicle parts to garages all over the country. I did that very well. Again, one day I saw a guy came in with a suit and a brand new Volkswagen Golf, and I was like, "Wow, young guy, how can you afford that car?" I approached the guy, and he told me that he works selling cars for a living. So I used that guy as sort of like goal. I actually applied to be a car salesman. Most of them rejected me. One gave me an interview. I obviously got the job. There was about 100 salespeople working in that job. And I actually became the number one salesman after the third month of doing that. So after doing that for like a few months, I'm like, you know what it is? I'm actually very good at this, because the thing about it is I've been obviously selling in St. Lucia. I mean, if we don't obviously sell, if we don't hustle back home, we can't eat. So I think I was obviously very grateful to be obviously not raised with much in the Caribbean. So I was obliged and I was forced to obviously be hustling. And I brought them the same thing from St. Lucia into the UK, and I realized, you know what it is? I'm actually very good at this,
That's awesome. That's pretty awesome. And that's actually a really good story that rather than, because we tend to see people being successful and we get jealous, but rather than getting jealous, you use that as your inspiration and your aspirations. Like, yeah, I want to reach that level. And you continue to push through. And that is pretty amazing. So, I'm one just like you. I'm always all about making money. So I'm always thinking about how can I become a multimillionaire. And YouTube is like the free university. I think Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, one of them said that. And I was scrolling through YouTube, and I stumbled upon this series from Samuel Leeds. And I was like, okay, let me listen. And I see this guy, and I was like, to me, it sounded like a Lucian. And that is how I stumbled upon you, Mr. Willie. So let's talk about that whole vibe with Samuel Leeds. How did that happen?
Yeah, so what happened was, again, when I came in, I always obviously, I knew about property, but I always sort of like discredited myself from thinking that I qualify because of my age, because of the color of my skin, because of obviously my funds at the time. So what happened is in 2020, after trying many different ventures, many different jobs, it was lockdown. I was in a very sticky situation, really contemplating like, man, I'm actually a loser. I've been here for like 7 years and I still haven't got anything to my name. So I was like, man, like I might as well go back home. I was really contemplating what am I going to do with my life. And what happened with lockdown, I started binging on Netflix. And I came across obviously the series called Selling Sunsets, right? Which is all about selling luxurious properties. So now, you know what it is?
Yes.
I can do that, man. I'm not a bad looking guy. I can obviously wear a suit and sell a property and make thousands of pounds. So I applied for multiple luxurious estate agency and they all declined me, right? But one small little private owned one invited me in a small little town, obviously called Slough in the UK. So I went in, luckily I got the job, and I worked there for a little while. And obviously while I was working there, I met a few people from sort of like India and stuff, right? One of the guys came in with a bunch of keys, a massive bunch of keys. And I was like, okay, cool. So I started speaking to him. And I realized very quickly he could just about speak one line of English. And he was, sort of like youngish. I'm like, hold on a minute, this guy is probably not that much older than me. He owns all of those properties and he can hardly speak English, which means surely he couldn't be in this country that long. So I looked at this guy and I looked at myself, I'm like, hold on a minute, if he can do it, then I can do it. So for the first time in my life, I actually saw somebody who I could sort of like resonate with. So that gave me all the belief that I needed to say, you know what it is, I can do property as well. I can be an investor. So what happened was I actually left my job straight away. And I'm like, you know what it is, I'm going to be doing property. I'm going to be a property investor. And now in the UK, there's loads of free events. So I went to multiple free events. But in the UK, what happens is you go to the free events, they give you a snippet, they give you a little bit about property, a little bit here, a little bit there. But the only way you can obviously get the A to Z of everything to do step by step is you have to pay thousands of pounds for training. Now I'm thinking like, man, bro, I'm not paying somebody thousands of pounds for something that I can't see. That was my initial mindset. But after going through so many different, obviously, training programs that I'm hearing, this guy is making thousands of pounds, that making thousands of pounds, I got to a point where I'm like, you know what it is? What have I got to lose, man? So what I did was, I bite the bullet and I invested some money into obviously getting trained in property. Now, one of the trainers that obviously I invested with was Samuel Leeds, as you mentioned. I actually did some training with him. I acquired my first sort of like rent-to-rent property where I rented off the landlord and I re-rented out, on a nightly basis, and I was making about £700 a month, which was okay, but it still is not meeting the goal I wanted of like, thousands of pounds, right? So what happened was Samuel had a program called the Eviction, and the Eviction is sort of like a property version of the Apprentice, and basically what it is, they give you a task to do, and if you obviously pass the task, you move on to the next round. And if you don't, you get evicted, you get out, you go out of the show. And the winner of the eviction gets to do something called a financial freedom challenge, where Samuel Leeds obviously spent 7 days with me. And I actually won that show, so I actually won the prize. So we obviously worked together for like 7 days. He obviously broke down everything, property-wise with me. And within 7 days of working tirelessly non-stop, I became completely financially free from property within that week. And that was in 2020, in December. And since then, it's been life-changing, man. So that's
Yo, you said 7 days, like literally 7 days, because like I know, like I watched the show, and of course we think about it's just a gimmick for TV. You said 7 days you're able to just start going full on.
Yeah. So basically, so in 7 days, our goal was to get a few properties to give me a recurring income of £2,400 a month. And what we did was we actually found loads of property deals, passed them on to investors who haven't got the time, who haven't got the education, and they paid us a finder's fee of an average about £3,000. So within the week we made £10,000 in a week, and we obviously acquired a few properties that brought me a recurring income of £2,400 a month. So yeah, it all happened within a week. And since then I've been teaching loads of individuals to do it, and there's individuals that I've helped do it already. So it 100% is achievable.
Yeah, you have me tempted. I feel like I'm gonna book a flight tomorrow and come up and learn how to do this. What has been your greatest accomplishment doing this? Because I've watched the show a couple times, even up to last night. I just watched it again, and seeing things like on your mood board and your goal board, and seeing, one of the things I see that was important to you was becoming a public speaker. And I think now you've been doing so much work in that and focusing so much on that. What does it feel like knowing that you are finally accomplishing those things that you set out to accomplish 7 years ago when you first went to the UK?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people obviously always say like, what's it like? Are you surprised? The truth of the matter is, and I don't mean to sound swell-headed, but I don't feel like it's a surprise. I feel like it's something that I knew was going to come. You see, for me, almost my entire life is obviously intentional, right? One of my mentors has a saying, and what he says is that there are years in your life when nothing happens. There are years where you're just trying and nothing goes your way. But there are days where years happen, and that's the story of my life. I've been trying for years, to do multiple different things to become successful. But what happened is, God gave me, the right vehicle to achieve the goals. You see, sometimes people want to achieve goals, and they try in every single thing. And the honest reality is, they're not bad people. They have got all the ability, but sometimes they're the wrong vehicle. And that's why I realized in 2013 when I left St. Lucia, I'm like, look, St. Lucia is an amazing island. I love St. Lucia. I was there in December. But I realized for me to achieve what I need to achieve, I need to get out of that vehicle and obviously get into a right vehicle. And what do I mean by that? Let's just say you have got a Lamborghini Aventador, right? The very low one, right? Imagine you take this Lamborghini Aventador and you put the Lamborghini Aventador on, the road, the Maho road going up to the Latil Falls, right? Can you agree that it doesn't matter how much
Nah.
you put down on the accelerator, you will never get the full test of the Lamborghini, right? But if you take out the Lamborghini and you put it on, let's just say on the basin viewports, and you put your feet down, can you agree you're gonna get the best out of the car?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing like our lives. Some people are obviously good people, but they're on the wrong track. They need to get out of the track and obviously come here. My brother always said, tell me something. When I obviously leave the house and I've got my shades on, he always says, Buzum, what does he always say? Sedli si upaye, sedli si upaye. He always says, like, he said, look, I'm nobody, but hey, I'm somebody. And that's basically what it is. Obviously, I came here as opportunities and I grasp it. And that's why, I'm reaping the rewards today.
That is amazing. That is definitely amazing. I'm like, okay, so I know your goal throughout the show was to get this apartment in London where you was like, what, about £2,000 a month? Were you able to get that apartment?
Yeah, man. This is my apartment. Let me just show you. This is where I am.
Oh, nice.
So you can see the whole of London behind me.
Wow, that is amazing. That is amazing. So definitely, you make it seem easy, but how much hard work is it though?
I mean, listen. I wouldn't go as far and saying it's easy. It's not easy, man. It's not easy. And for me, being born and bred in St. Lucia, being born and bred in Big Hood, my whole life I didn't even have a toilet. Until I kind of like left St. Lucia, I didn't have a television in my house. So I don't think there's anything I can do right now in my life that can be harder than the things I did growing up. I think things are hard. It just compares. It just depends if you have a point of reference. If you've got something to obviously, relate it to. Does that make sense? So it definitely is not easy, but because of the amount of hard things I've done in my life, I'm like, come on, man, it's easy. I mean, like, all I have to do, pick up the phone, speak to landlords, speak to agents, speak to investors. I'm like, I used to work construction. I used to work on the roofing with Bryce and Co in St. Lucia. I used to be in the hot sun, on a roof, very, very high. The sun is hitting the sheet metal, it's hitting my face. When I get off the roof, I'm roasted for what, $60, $80 a day. So when I used to do those things, what I'm doing now is like, come on, man. It doesn't compare. Does that make sense? I'm sitting here in my penthouse in the UK making phone calls. That's easy. So I'm not saying it's easy, but what I'm trying to say is like when you go a point of reference, it appears easy compared to where you came from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I definitely get you. Makes a lot of sense. We just have about, let me see, just about 6 minutes left in the interview. So let's go into the part now where, I mean, you've given so much advice, especially what resonated with me the most is talking about sometimes you have the right car, but you just need to go on the right track. So that's one of the things that has already resonated with me. What are like 2 or 3 more tips that you could leave with people listening right now who are probably thinking, listen, I drive I feel like the hottest car and I just feel so out of place in the society.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I mean, one of the advices is the cards that you were dealt life is not about the cards that you were dealt. And let me explain to you why I mean. When I was in St. Lucia, one of the things that I used to obviously do to make money, I realized that one of the most, I would say, biggest potential income streams, other than like doing illegal things, was like gambling, right? Now, I liked gambling, but sometimes I used to win in gambling, and sometimes I used to lose more than I used to win. I'm like, you know what it is? That's not sustainable. So what I realized is most guys who used to gamble in Pico, they used to gamble in a small little hut down the road, right? But then the shop closed at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, so then the gambling stops. So what happened is, I used to obviously live with my brother, right? So what happened was, I actually used my brother's lounge as a gambling room. I used to bring all the gamblers to come into the house to gamble. I never used to gamble, but I was the one hosting the gambling. I used to give them tea, I used to give them juice, I used to give them whatever they want, cake, whatever. I need canned pizza, no problem, it's in the fridge, right? They used to gamble until 6 in the morning. But what happened was, because I was hosting the gambling, I was taking, shots, which is like, taking, a commission every few games. So what happened was, when I was obviously hosting the gamble, I used to have the privilege of walking around and seeing everybody's cards. And they used to play brags, right? Which is similar to poker, right? When I used to watch people's cards, I used to see people who used to raise, flush. They used to raise straight. They used to raise very good hands. And I see some of those people lose the game. I see some people who's got, jack 3 8. They got nothing in their hand, but then they used to win the game. Just because they used to bluff. And from there, it really hit me. It's like, man, it doesn't matter what hand that you were dealt. It's how you play the hand will dictate how you win the game of brags or poker. It's the same thing. Now, our life is exactly the same thing. It doesn't matter. I'm a living example. Like, it doesn't matter if you obviously raised in bighood in a small little hut. You got the opportunity to play your hand properly and become a property millionaire in a few years in the UK. And it's the same for like anybody obviously listening to this or watching this. I don't care how much money you got in your account right now. I don't care what you've done up until now. Right now, you've got the ability to change your life around. So where you came from has got nothing to do with where you're going. It's down to what you're going to do now. So that's the first advice I would give to people, that you've got the ability to move. You're not a tree. You're not stagnant. You can just move and go from one place to another. So that's the first advice. The cards you dealt is not... It doesn't dictate how you would if you're going to win the game of life, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, what people obviously don't realize is that you have to obviously change your environment if you want to change your life. There's no way around it. I think for me, that was one of the hardest things I had to do to have some success in my life. I had to completely discern myself from the people that I knew before to get to where I'm going. And for me, that was very, very hard because I wanted to bring everybody with me. But what I realized very, very quickly is that if the people around me would have helped me become successful, do you not think I would have been there already? You see, if you are drowning and somebody is drowning, right? You cannot save them from drowning if you drown with them as well. The only way you can save them from drowning is by getting out of the water and pulling them up. And it's the same thing like our life. You can't help, your best friend, because sometimes you have maybe the reason why you are best friends because you have the same habits. Maybe you both like drinking, maybe you both got financial, you're not very good with money. So the reality of it is, if you want to really change your life around, the honest reality is you have to find people who are better than you and adopt new habits, and the new habits will produce different results. So I think that for me was one of the hardest things. Like a lot of my friends are like, oh, you change, things are different. And look, I get it. I get the fact that they say, things are different, but I have got a life of abundance now. I have, I'm driving the car that I want to drive now. I'm living the apartment that I want to live now. I don't work for anybody. So success comes with a massive, I would say, risk. What I'm trying to say in a nutshell is that your new life that you want is going to cost you your whole life. You can't have them both at one time. You got to change your environment to effectively change the results.
Man, that was well said. Absolutely well said. What's next for you?
Yeah, I mean, what's next for me? I mean, in 2020, before I obviously started the property properly, I was sitting on the sofa and things were obviously very, very tough. And I was, I'm one of those people, like a lot of people, when things are obviously tough, all of a sudden we get very close to God, right? We ask God, we pray to God to help me. So in 2020, I was obviously going through a very tough time, and I prayed to God. I really asked God, I'm like, God, please help me get out of this situation. I know I'm meant to do something. Please just give me a sign. And he helped me. He showed me property, and it's completely changed everything in the last 3 years. And one of the things I told him in 2020 is that, listen, if you help me get out of where I am right now, I will tell everybody that it was you, and I'm going to bring a lot of people with me as well. So now I'm obviously doing well. My goal is to bring more people with me. My goal is to obviously help, inspire, teach people, train people, educate people, and just show them that there is a way. My goal is to let everybody know that they can actually change their life around. And listen, if they choose to act upon it and apply what I'm teaching, whether it's property or whether it's sales, then great. If they don't, at least they know they have an option. So my goal, the short answer to your question, is to help people really give back. I want to do something in St. Lucia as well. I want us to help educate people. So that's the goal, man. That's what I'm working towards.
Definitely, we will look forward to hearing more from you and seeing you more at home doing some amazing things. Probably opening up the mindset of some of our landlords here to tell them it's okay to rent out to people to rent out, because I don't think we have that mentality over here. Trust me, take it from me. I've tried, but it's really good to hear from you, man, Evans, and also give people your Insta and how they could reach out to you and follow you on social media, because you've been posting a lot of great stuff. So let people know how they could get in contact with you.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. My name is Evans, Evans, J Willie is my name. So Evans, Evans, J for Juliet, and my last name is Willie, Willie.
Thank you so much. We look forward to hearing from you, and thank you so much. Let me tell you, I'm really appreciative of you reaching out, man. This is a dream come true for me. You have no idea. So thank you so much. We look forward to hearing more from you, and hopefully having you in studio, probably doing something in St. Lucia sometime soon. You don't be a stranger. Always reach out. We're here to help. All right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and have a good day.
Yeah, man, thank you so much. That was the man, Evans Willie, all the way in the UK right now, joining us to do our Mind Your Business segment. I really appreciated that. That was a good one. For those locked on Facebook, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. And for all those on Radio Land, we go right back to the music. Let's go.